Christians, and sad to say pastors, who will say that Christianity, Christians, pastors have no business talking about political issues, which your program, our program together, right, has proven everybody wrong. Your viewership is awesome. It's off the charts. It's fantastic, and it's growing on this topic. The question is, why? The answer is because this is what affects people's lives. And somewhere in our minds, we thought, well, it's best to keep the things that really happen in our life every day separate from church. We'll go to church on Sunday, but we'll live through the insanity of the rest of the week, but then we'll go to church on Sunday. And you guys are awesome watchmen announcing that whatever we teach from the Bible on Sunday should equip our congregations for what they've got to deal with on Monday. School board, PTA, local civics, federal laws, state laws, the issues that govern our businesses, illegitimate taxes, for example, things that are wrong, that are being imposed upon you, things that are being made up by the lords of politics to supersede the will of God in your life. So when somebody says, oh, we should never mix politics and our religion together, I would submit to you, that's impossible. Remember this, God created Israel, the church, right? Marriage and government. That's in the Bible. The problem with government is when God's not invited, man turns it into politics. And that's what you and I are suffering. We're suffering under the lords of politics. What happens is we need to get back to good leadership. And good leadership means that the people in this republic hold the leaders responsible. It is still we the people so long as we have a constitution. So here's what I want to encourage all of you to keep doing at Faith in Politics. Speaking the truth, Bibles open, and addressing the issues, because it is incumbent upon the Christian to hold their elected officials responsible for what they do. They are to be the instruments of righteousness, Romans 13 says. We need to hold them to that standard. We need to get involved like never before. If we don't, then they're going to make rules about our children. They're going to expose our kids to things that are ungodly. And our communities are going to fall apart because we will not enforce laws and we will not do what's right, healthy, and honoring to God. So I want to thank all of you for standing. And please, pastors, get the word out. It's time to stop hiding and engage the culture for Christ until He comes again.
Aloha and welcome to Faith in Politics, where we aim to discuss politics through the lens of faith, both here in Hawaii and around the world. I'm Brennan Scarborough, your host. In this program, Malala Po catches up with Hedi Amiramati as they discuss the nationwide protests in Iran over the torture and death of a young Kurdish woman. Gina Gleason of Real Impact in California fills us in on the Gavin Newsom Proposition 1, the birthday abortion proposition. Is this late-term abortion acceptable? But first we start this episode with Leo Rodas, who interviews a man sent to prison by the current Republican candidate for Hawaii governor, Duke Aiona, who was a judge at the time. Will he be voting for Duke? The answer will surprise you.
The race for governor and lieutenant governor is reduced to two main candidates with very different experiences and service backgrounds. But what are the important topics for families and residents? Well, the top issues are focused on the economy, rising costs in an already expensive Hawaii, electricity, housing, laws, and policies that make future Hawaiian generations impossible to stay in Hawaii. Today, Herman Afoa Keli'i Jr., a local man who spends a lot of time in the community, Nanakuli High School graduate, recent graduate from Pacific Rim Christian University, and current associate pastor at ECC. Herman, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Do you have any personal experiences with either candidate?
Well, I do, and it's with Mr. Duke Aiona.
Okay.
I met him through the court system.
What do you mean?
Once upon a time, worked a lot with drugs and alcohol here on the islands. And I started taking wrong directions, making ungodly decisions,
Okay.
you know. And I found myself facing Honorable Judge Duke Aiona.
Really?
So he was the judge that God put me in the front of. That's how I first encountered meeting Judge Duke Aiona.
So you probably don't like him very much, have negative things to say about him? What? Go ahead.
At the time, I had a lot of negative thought, not only about him, but about the system itself. The honest truth
Yeah.
is that I do not have any hard feelings or any bad thoughts about Honorable Duke Aiona. Simple reason is when I decided to turn my life over to Jesus Christ, King Jesus. I gave him my all. And by giving him my all, meaning my heart, my mind, my soul, my spirit, and strength, to let him guide me, teach me, and lead me to make better decisions. So, the experience I had with Duke Aiona, I believe that it was God's appointed time for me to shape up. I needed to learn a lesson, and whatever the lesson was for me to learn, made me a much more better man today. And I remember hearing that Honorable Duke Aiona was very concerned about his Hawaiian people in general.
Sure.
At least about 80% of those of us that were incarcerated
Sure.
had this and still have this opportunity to get our life back in order. Judge Aiona was part of was to really help for those of us that was local style, yeah?
Yeah.
Boneheaded. Bonehead, you know,
Sure.
hard-hearted, stubborn. It takes us, each and every one of us, to want help.
So let's fast forward to where we are today. You're an elder in the community, right? You do all kinds of different things. What are some topics that are most important to you?
I am blessed, truly blessed, with 30 plus grandchildren.
30 plus?
30 plus grandchildren. See, I am looking mainly towards the future of my grandchildren and great grandchildren today.
So families.
Yes,
Yeah.
family, friends,
Right.
you know.
The economy, things
The
like that,
economy.
to make sure that our Hawaiian generations are able to stay and flourish right here where they call home.
Yes, and that's the most important thing that any governor would want to do, is to keep their people here, home on our islands. Put in the laws that they say they're going to do. You know, I know it's not an easy job, but when you make promises to your people,
Yeah.
as a governor, then we feel that it is very important for them to do their best to follow what they promise or they say.
That's a perfect segue. I think just this week, there was a debate that was hosted by Civil Beat, and it had Duke Aiona and Josh Green on. So we're going to take a moment now to watch a section of that debate, and we can talk about it afterwards.
Okay.
All right?
Duke, you're a man of faith. There are many voters who share that faith, who like your views, but others worry that your faith may influence your policies. So how are you, if you become governor, going to balance religious interest and under the concept of separation of church and state?
Yeah, I don't believe there's any instance in which I have done that, where I have imposed my faith, my beliefs as a mandate from my office as lieutenant governor, or even as a judge. I do pray. I am a man of faith, and I'm praying every single day for the state of Hawaii and the nation and the world.
Thank you. Josh, this is for you. The Republican Party, your opponent, has made much about corruption under the Democratic Party. Is your party corrupt?
Okay, first, I'd like to say we're all people of faith in this state, and I'm a person who's part Jewish, part Russian Orthodox, married to a woman who's Church of Latter-day Saints who I love. We pray, and we all pray for our state. We all bring our faith differently, whether we wear it on our sleeve or not. Now, regarding corruption, there's been corruption in politics, and it's terrible. People who have committed crimes should be punished, should go to jail. In a green administration, we'll have zero tolerance for ethical lapses, for crimes that are committed. I've already planned to augment the Attorney General's office to make sure that we have the capacity to actually have the highest standard. And anyone in my administration, if we're chosen, who does anything of the sort would be gone immediately.
There is just one party that's been in control, however, largely since statehood.
Well, the reason for that is because our party is much closer ideologically and from a value standpoint to the people of Hawaii. And I know I knew that question would come up, but the truth is, if you believe what the people believe, then you end up getting selected. And that comes to all of the issues. I won't relitigate them until you ask another question about which specific issue to honor you. But when you focus on those issues in a way that the people respond based on their values and your values, that's why the majority party is that.
Is that true?
I beg to differ with I guess the inference, he didn't say it, but I guess the inference is that Republicans are out of step with the values of the people of Hawaii. Josh, I don't know about you, but I'm born and raised here, man. I got deep roots in this state. I got a family that goes deep on both sides. I don't know about you, but I am Keiki Okaina. I don't know about you, but I just came back from Waipio Valley, where I met with those people who are definitely impacted by it. We had a great session. I can't tell you how emotional it was to come back to my roots. I said, I'm coming back to my roots right now, my Native Hawaiian roots. And I got the aloha. It was in my na'au where I said, this is it. You guys are doing it the right way. They talked about having love. They talked about having peace. And they talked about having forgiveness in their hearts. That's what they wanted out of that whole situation there. It's not about keeping people out and blocking access and keeping the valley to themselves. It was about what I just said, because they said, look, enough with the fighting. I'm not a warrior anymore. I just want to make peace and I want to have love.
Yeah,
and so, when you say Republicans are out of step in regards to the values of the people of Hawaii, nothing could be more wrong and incorrect than that. That's just an incorrect
There's so many things to correct here, Chad. First of all, it is offensive when Duke tries to play a card as though he is local and therefore more connected to people, and to go from Republican to he's Hawaiian and therefore he's more connected to people. I came to Hawaii to care for people with the National Health Corps. All of my ohana became the Hawaiian community and the Filipino community on the Big Island, who I would give my career and life for. And then my family is all from here. So I don't divide people along that line like he just tried to do. What I'm speaking about is ideologies. And I think it is absolutely clear that the people of Hawaii value individual freedoms that are protected by the Democrats in this case, and by my ticket, in this case, myself and Sylvia. People respond to the fact that we believe that everyone has a right to a house, that everyone should have their religion respected, or their who they love is respected, or how they want to have their bodies respected. These are human questions. These are not questions that should be divided the way he just tried to do. That is a historic, very awful thing that was just done. And I am disappointed, but that's okay.
Understood. Blaze.
Can I respond to that?
I think I was responding to him.
Blaze, you wanted to know how we're going to handle this kind of differences?
You're talking over each other, and so we can't hear. Duke, very briefly,
Sure.
and then to Blaze.
He said, how are we going to handle disagreement? I'm just going to let that pass. Let his comments speak for itself, and let the people decide what just transpired here in regards to what was said.
Okay,
I agree to disagree. How's that? Is that good for you, Blaze?
Based on that clip, yeah. Okay, see, you got some comments. Herman, let me have them. What do you think?
Let me start off this way. My father was and my mother, and my grandparents, and my great-grandparents, they were full-on Democrats, okay? But like my dad taught me, he said, listen to both sides, Yes, I'm a Democrat, son, But if a Republican speaks the truth and say things that is touching my heart, especially when it comes down to the love for our Hawaiian people, he said, then you listen to the other side. And if they answer in that same fashion, but has more like my political ground on what I'm doing is greater than my opponents. You know, you listen carefully. Are both of them trying to condemn one another, or are they trying to work things out for us? So listening to this, Lieutenant Governor Green, he spoke more of the Democrat this and Democrat that.
And let me just ask you a question about keiki o ka ina. This is something that Duke brought up. What does that mean to you? You're born and raised where? Tell me a little bit about that and what that means to you.
Well, I'll take you with my dad. He's a Maui boy from Hana. Yeah, they live off of the grid till today. Iona spoke about keiki o ka ina. Of course, that will always touch the Hawaiian people's heart, because love starts from God himself. And when here in Hawaii, we have more love, and we call it aloha. And that aloha comes from the depths of our heart. And we share it. We don't only speak it, but we share it and we show it. And that's exactly what I heard Duke Aiona mentioned.
The first question had to do with faith, right?
Yes.
And yeah, let me just get your thoughts on, what it's like. Because from the sounds of the question, it was almost as though faith had maybe no place, or it needed to be sort of hidden when it came to how we present as a potential politician. What do you think about that? What do you think about how faith plays a role in our lives, and at least in leadership?
I got faith that I can ruin this island. And then he'll use his faith to ruin the island. Or he can say, I have faith in God that he's going to help me to lead people in a way that the people will be served by God through the man that's speaking his faith of the God he served down to the people. What faith? Faith in who? Faith in what? So a lot of times I see this in the political realm, that they talk about faith so broadly that you see it work ugly. When Duke Aiona spoke, he spoke about God.
He did.
He spoke about God. Now that catches a lot of Christians, and I hope a lot of you Christians out there listening, listen to the debates, listen to how they permit, or who permit God to speak through them to get to your heart, to know that faith in God is what our island needs.
That was well said. I don't need to say anything else. Herman, thank you so much for joining me today to talk about this.
Special thanks to Leo and Herman. You're watching Faith in Politics. We'll be right back.
I started as an intern at Kala TV, and today I'm working full-time running quality control as well as editing. Being a small team, I learned everything from camera work to editing to broadcasting, with the focus on spreading the gospel, being the only local Christian TV station in Hawaii. Our vision is big. That is why I want to ask you to consider being a part of the team by supporting us. Imagine that, working together, broadcasting aloha across Hawaii. Thank you for your financial support that empowers Kala TV.
Welcome back to Faith in Politics. Gina Gleason of Real Impact in California fills us in on the Gavin Newsom Proposition 1, the birthday abortion proposition. Late-term abortion, too cruel and extreme even for Californians. Here's Gina.
Hi, I'm Gina Gleason with Real Impact, a ministry of Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills, based in Southern California. I'm also the leader of a new campaign that was started in California to defeat Proposition 1, which will be on the November ballot. Proposition 1 is an amendment to our state constitution and adds the right for a woman to be able to have an abortion in California. As I was reading the language of Proposition 1, which is just 3 sentences, I realized that the author of this text did not include limitations on when a woman can have an abortion. And I realized that we needed to get this information out to the voting public, because we know California is a pro-choice state, and most voters are going to vote in favor of abortion rights. But what we found out is through a Rasmussen poll that we recently conducted is that 79% of those polled do not like late-term abortion. That's good news for us because even though the majority of voters are pro-choice, they do not like late-term abortion. So what was interesting about that also is that 70% of those polled were declined to state, independent, or Democrat voters, which is great news for us. So this means that we needed to get organized, put out some messaging to indicate that this proposition will legalize late-term abortion, because nowhere in the language, the 3 sentences of this proposition, are there any limitations set on when a woman can have an abortion. So that means that during the 9 months, the 40 weeks of pregnancy, a woman can have an abortion, and a late-term abortion is cruel, it's extreme, it's inhumane. So let me read the 3 sentences of Proposition 1, and I want you to look for limitations on when the woman can have an abortion. Here it is, very straightforward. The state shall not deny or interfere with an individual's reproductive freedom in their most intimate decisions, which includes their fundamental right to choose to have an abortion and their fundamental right to choose or refuse contraceptives. This section is intended to further the constitutional right to privacy guaranteed by Section 1 and the constitutional right to not be denied equal protection guaranteed by Section 7. Nothing here narrows or limits the right to privacy or equal access. So I'm sure you did not see any limitations. They could have added a simple sentence that said, there is a point when the woman cannot have an abortion. That is the point of what's called viability, meaning at approximately 24 weeks or 6 months, the baby can survive outside the mother's womb. So a woman can legally have a late-term abortion in California if her life or her health is in jeopardy. And that has to be in consultation with her physician. So in other words, late-term abortion is illegal if you want to have it for just any reason. What Proposition 1 does, it expands the right to have an abortion far beyond the current limitations in California. Our website is stopprop1.com. On that website, you can find a lot of material and information about the proposition, something that you will not find in the mainstream media, from our politicians, from anyone on the pro-abortion side. As a matter of fact, all the news articles that are coming out, never do they mention the possibility that late-term abortion will happen in California, because the language is so vague, and I believe they did that on purpose. They don't want to talk about it. Most of the legislators, the author of this bill, they're running from it. They do not want to mention the word late-term abortion or viability. We are putting together a campaign that is going to reach out to churches, providing them with information, all about them getting involved in getting this information to their congregation and getting a no vote out of all of the voters from that church. A lot of our information is bilingual, English, Spanish, with other languages coming. We know that the minority communities are very pro-life and very much opposed to late-term abortion. We are getting Pastor Jack and any other pastor who wants to speak up about this out into the media and doing interviews, as a matter of fact. So it's very important that we get organized and get support to get the truth out about what this is all about. So I hope that you all in Hawaii will be aware of what's going on, pay attention to your legislature, and make sure that you're following the bills that they are introducing, because you could very well end up with a proposition just like us in California that will legalize late-term abortion. So thank you.
Thanks, Gina, for that report. Be sure to visit their website. Even though we're in Hawaii, we can get involved in stopping this horrific bill. Next up, why are there nationwide protests across Iran? Hedia Miramati speaks with Malala Po on the torture and death of a young Kurdish woman that sparked protests across the entire nation. But there's good news too. Let's join in on the conversation.
Hedia, fill us in on why the people are protesting in Iran.
Sure. It started with a young Kurdish woman that her name is Mahsa Amini, and she was arrested by the morality police, beaten, tortured, and eventually died of her injuries. And it sparked a nationwide protest. The protest movement is largely led by women, which is unprecedented in Iran's history under the revolution. And what another interesting fact is that the way Mahsa was wearing her head cover was not very different than many young Iranian women. So it's unclear what sparked this kind of a reaction from the morality police, but it has definitely led to protests across the country. Hundreds, if not thousands of people have died because we don't have accurate reporting there. The internet has since shut down, and it doesn't look like the protests are going to abate anytime soon.
So you are a devout Muslim. What is the significance of the hijab, especially in Iran?
Sure. It's actually a little bit controversial in the Muslim community whether the hijab for women is mandatory. So some more modern liberal communities believe that it was only advice for women to be modest and it wasn't a requirement to cover your head. More conservative communities like I was a part of did actually require wearing a head cover. And in Iran, it's part of their penal code. So if women do not cover, they can be arrested and imprisoned. And so it doesn't become anything about religious expression anymore. It's more just a form of government oppression and a way to control the people and, most importantly, control the women.
The new prime minister of Italy said extreme leftist beliefs are all about taking away a person's identity. Is that what has happened to women in Iran?
It's actually a fascinating discussion to compare radical leftist ideology with Islamic extremism, and they actually have roots to one another. So early in the 1920s, when the Muslim Brotherhood was growing in Egypt, they actually borrowed Marxist philosophy to create an ideology that would be more oppressive. Traditional Islam was much more of a cultural expression, but Islamic extremism, like we see today in Iran, actually has its roots in Marxist ideology. So it's no surprise that they use the same tactics of controlling people and imposing limitations on people to conform to a certain ideology and a certain belief system that they want that furthers their power structure. And it's so disheartening to hear the president, Raisi of Iran, quoting our president saying, we will crack down on disinformation. Suddenly, we've become a model of oppression. And that's so disheartening as an American that they would use our president's language to further their oppression in Iran.
Is it true that the fastest growing church is in Iran? And if so, why is that?
Yes, absolutely. It's a source of great joy for me. I think it's because 40 plus years of forced Islamic expression people are just fed up and they're looking for opportunities. They're looking for new faith. They're looking for new spirituality. And it's just wonderful, fertile ground for the Lord to operate. And I think they're curious. They're finding information online, and it is inspiring them. The freedom, the salvation offer, the free gift of salvation offered from Christ is so appealing to Iranian and especially the young generation. And the church is spreading like wildfire, home to home, person to person. I've actually had the opportunity to meet many Iranians that have come here and relocated here in the United States or other parts of Europe and talk about that experience. And it's actually quite fascinating because they risked life and limb in order to believe in Jesus Christ. A friend of mine, Marzia, actually suffered in one of the worst Iranian prisons for over 200 days because of her love of Christ that she had found.
Wow, that's incredible. What encouragement would you give to practicing Muslims?
Well, I think it's important. I met Jesus Christ on YouTube. So I think it's very important that people realize you do not need Christian friends. You know, when you're starting out, you don't even need to walk into a church, that the Lord Jesus Christ will meet you where you are. There are internet resources, there are home church groups, there are so many resources available for you to just have a relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ and to reach out and ask God to inspire your heart about the reality, because Muslims have some understanding of who Jesus is. They just don't have the correct understanding of who Jesus is. And I firmly believe it happened to me. It happened to dozens of other born again Christians that I have met, that when you sincerely pray and ask the Lord into your heart, he will respond. He will meet you where you are.
Amen.
Amen.
God bless you, Hidia. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Hidia and Malala, for that report. That's all the time we have. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Faith in Politics. The program exists because of viewers like you. And from all of us here at Faith in Politics, thank you for your support prayerfully and financially. If you believe the content we're providing is important, please consider partnering with us. For those watching on social platforms such as Rumble or YouTube, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Invite your friends to tune in and watch our program. We're the only local political program in Hawaii with a Christ-centered point of view. And I'm Brendan Scarborough. Until next time, aloha.
So listen, this is almost like in the book of Acts, a Macedonian call coming from California. Listen up, everybody. You all know that what happens in California doesn't stay in California. It's going to hit Hawaii like a tidal wave. What is it? It's called Proposition 1. Our governor is trying to change our state constitution so that it will legalize abortion up till birth, and it doesn't even specify regarding after birth. We're calling it the Birthday Abortion Bill, Prop 1. And we have launched a campaign, StopProp1.com. StopProp1, the number 1.com, to get the word out. Because here's the deal. If it happens in California, we already know that there are states watching to see what happens, liberal states, to see how to get it going in their state. If it succeeds in California by amending the state constitution, then maybe we can amend the constitution in Hawaii, in New Jersey, in New York, and in other places. We're asking you to go to StopProp1.com, pray and help us. And here's the big lift for all of you on the islands. All of you know someone in California. Will you call them, text them, email them? Will you maybe even send them this clip? Because many people don't know. Let them know. As a voice coming from Hawaii back to the mainland, tell your friends, go to StopProp1.com to find out more how we can stop this insanity in Sacramento.